When it comes to morphing, we need some basic guidelines to use to understand if we've actually got a morph of a pattern or we don't. There are three basic rules of morphing. If the patterns do not fit these three criteria, they are not morphs. Rule number one, both patterns must have the same number of notes in each hand. This means that if you're looking at one pattern and you're seeing 3 right hand notes, the other pattern must have 3 right hand notes as well. Same with the left. They must be identical. Rule number 2. The mechanical sequence of each isolated hand must be the same in both patterns. For instance, if you have one pattern and the right hand is going open, close, Sngl, in the other pattern there must be that exact same sequence in the right hand, open, close, Sngl. The rhythm might be different, but the sequence must be the same. Same for the left hand. Must be identical sequence. Rule number 3. The first note of both patterns must be the same movement of the same hand in the same rhythmic location. This is really important because it's the common denominator. It's the moment where the patterns have the same, you're doing the same thing at the same time in both patterns. So, if you've got 2 patterns and you're trying to find out if it's a morph of one, if it doesn't fit these 3 criteria, it's not a morph. Alright, here's our double Sngl pattern with an interwoven Sngl. There's one more morph we need to create to complete this group of double Sngl patterns. Every pattern I've shown you up to this point has adhered strictly to those 3 rules of morphing I just told you about. In order to get to this last morph, we're going to break one of those rules ever so slightly. And we're going to get to it by applying rhythmic morphing to this interwoven Sngl pattern. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to bump the first note ahead of the measure by 1/16th note, and we're going to move the left hand so that it's on the beat. So you could call this pattern an open stroke on the beat, and in this pattern we've put the Sngl on the beat. And this pattern does break our rule in that we move the rhythmic location of the first note. We're going to allow this to happen because this pattern is also in 3/4 time. So the open stroke becomes a pickup note. It's actually the grace note of a Flam to this note. We're going to allow this rule breakage because if we look at the same pattern written in standard notation in 3/8 time, it would be written this way. The grace note of the Flam would be happening here. So you have a open with the right, a left hand Sngl, and a close with the right. Left hand Flam, right. So we're going to break our rule because this note is so close to beat 1 that it might as well be the same. So there are 2 patterns we have with interwoven Sngls here. We have the open on the beat or the Sngl on the beat. Because of this, we're going to call these 2 patterns are going to be a little group we're going to call double Sngl 2. Okay, here are our 2 patterns of double Sngls 2. Both patterns have interwoven Sngls. The first pattern has the open stroke on the beat. The second pattern has the Sngl on the beat. Notice that we're going to be, when we practice these things, we're going to be playing them repetitively. So I need to account for this pickup note within the space of this measure. So we've put it on the last 16th of beat 3 and put a dotted eighth rest in. So we start here, we play this pattern over and over and over again. If it's easier for you to conceptualize of that this way, then do that. So get comfortable with these two patterns, playing them exactly as written. Starting with the right hand or right hand lead. Once those are feeling pretty good, try doing them with the left hand so that becomes comfortable. So you could start with either hand, it doesn't matter. Alright, let's look at these two patterns of double single 2. We've got the open on the beat version and we have the single on the beat version. We're going to play them very slowly in 3/4 time. I'll set up a metronome here. I'll play 4 of the open on the beat versions and then I'll segue to 4 of the single on the beat, back to the open on the beat, etc. We'll go around a couple times. Here's a metronome. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Notice that when I do the single on the beat 1, I'm putting a little accent on that single to help really lock it into beat 1. Let's try some with the left hand playing a double. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? Now that you're comfortable playing those patterns starting with either hand, let's try playing them hand to hand. Here are the two double single 2 patterns with interwoven singles written out open on beat in slow motion notation, the single on beat in standard notation, and in slow motion notation. Let's compare the 2 slow motion notation versions. We start with an open with the right, followed by a single with the left, followed by a close with the right. Notice that the close with the right is on beat 2 in both patterns. Moving on, we have an open with the left, followed by a single with the right, followed by the close of the left. Again, the close of the left in this measure is the same in both patterns. Open with the right, we'll just start the sequence again. Slow motion notation is a very helpful tool. In this situation, we understand what's happening better with our morph by using it. Reading it and looking at it, however, it's not quite as visually accessible as the standard notation version, which would appear this way. Same thing. Grace note with the right, single with the left, close with the right. Grace note with the left, single with the right, close with the left. Let's turn the open on beat variation into a standard notation version. To do that, I have to cut the value of the notes and the rests in half. So the quarter note becomes an eighth note, the eighth notes become 16th notes, the quarter rest becomes an eighth rest. Do the same over here. The quarter becomes an eighth, the eighths become 16ths, the quarter rest becomes an eighth rest. And then the last thing I need to do is to change the meter. Got to cut the 4, or double the 4, into 8. So now we have both patterns in 3/8 time, so we can see how they relate to one another. In 3/8 time, notice that, again, beat 2, the right hand is closing, the right hand is closing. And on beat 2 in this pattern, the left hand is closing and the left hand is closing. So these notes are the same regardless of which pattern you're playing. So try playing these and see how they feel. Now let's play those double single patterns hand to hand in 3/4 time. First, let's do the open on the beat version. So I'll play right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now let's play the single on beat version. And again, we're going to accent the single just a little bit. Same tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Alright, now let's play a little exercise where we'll play the open on the beat. We'll go back and forth between the right, the left, the right, and the left, and then we'll segue to the single on the beat. Starting with the right, starting with the left, starting with the right, starting with the left, and then back to the open on the beat. Here's what that sounds like at this tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go a little faster. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Alright? Now that we're comfortable playing these patterns hand to hand in 3/8 time, let's try playing them in 2/8 time. To do that, we will remove the eighth rest from each measure. And we'll change the meter to 2/8 time. Some of you may recognize this bottom pattern as a rudiment. It's called inverted Flam taps. Some people call inverted Flam taps tap flams. I prefer inverted Flam tap because the flam is the first event in each measure. This pattern is 3-stroke roughs, hand to hand. So try playing these patterns now in 2/8 time. Now let's look at the two patterns of double single 2 played hand to hand in 2/8 time. First we'll look at the open on beat version. So these are the 3-stroke roughs played hand to hand. Here's what that sounds like. Okay? Now you can see the double in each hand as it moves from hand to hand. Now here's an interesting little exercise that can kind of help you with the precision of your execution. If we start playing that with the alternating 3-stroke roughs, if we take the Sngl out that we're putting in between that double stroke of each hand, look at what's left. A double stroke roll. So you can use that little relationship to help you get some precision on those 3-stroke roughs. They're a great exercise to play it because you really have to control that open-close movement. Now let's look at the single on-beat version played hand to hand in 2/8 time. These are the inverted Flam taps. Remember that the right hand starts this pattern, but this time the right hand is the grace note of the Flam in the left hand. Here's what that looks like. 1, 2, 2, 2. A little faster. Now I'd like to show you another little mechanical secret about inverted Flam taps. To do that, we're going to look at the isolated mechanics in each hand. I'll get the pattern going playing with both hands, and then I'll remove my left hand to reveal the mechanical sequence of my right hand. I'll put my left hand back in, then remove the right hand to look at the mechanical sequence of the left hand. Here's what that sounds like. See that both hands are playing open, close, down, open, close, down, open, close, down, open, close, down. I actually showed that stroke in the molar versus open, close technique video that I did as a way of combining open, close with molar. Since those strokes are in each hand, it stands to reason we should practice them as isolated little pieces. Open, close, down, open, close, down. Open, close, down, open, close, down. So the ultimate tempo of your inverted Flam taps will be controlled by your ability to play that stroke in each hand. Whichever hand is the slowest is going to set your max tempo. Keep in mind that as you speed that stroke up, the size of the movement is going to reduce. So when you're really slow, you've got a lot of movement. As you get fast, it condenses because you haven't got as much time to travel as much distance. Alright, just to review, here are the 5 double single patterns we've created. Double single 1, we have 3 patterns. equal values double, half values double, half values delayed close stroke. In double single 2, we have two patterns, both with interwoven singles. We have the open on beat and the single on beat version. So there are 5 double single patterns, just as there are 5 single double patterns.